The Trojan War, what really happened? 1. Historical context. The Trojan War is one of the most fascinating episodes in ancient Greek mythology and history. Set in a period that dates back approximately 1,200 years before Christ, this war transcended the simple clash between city-states and became an eternal symbol of love, honor, and tragedy. The narrative we know comes mainly from the works of Homer, especially the Iliad, which not only describes the events of the war, but also delves into the complexities of human emotions. When talking about this subject, it is possible to see how this story resonates with many of us, not only as a tale of the past, but as a reflection on the human condition itself. The city of Troy, located in modern-day Turkey, was an important commercial and strategic center, controlling sea and land routes. Troy's geographical configuration, with its high walls and privileged position, made it a desired target. However, what really led to such a devastating conflict was the involvement of personal and political issues. History shows us that the most intense conflicts often arise not only from territorial disputes, but also from passions and betrayals. Ancient Greece was made up of several city-states, each with its own government and culture. The rivalry between these cities was intense, and the search for power and prestige often resulted in wars. Amidst this dynamic, the Trojan War stands out not only for its duration, which lasted approximately 10 years, but also for the legacy it left. I have always been amazed by the ability of literature to capture the essence of a period. When reading about the Trojan War, I feel transported to a world where the gods walked among men, directly influencing the destinies and choices of mortals. This divine aspect of the narrative is not only fascinating, but it makes us reflect on what destiny is and to what extent our lives are guided by external forces. 2. Cause of the conflict. The origin of the Trojan War is marked by an event that seems simple, but which triggered a series of chain reactions that culminated in one of the most famous wars in history. The kidnapping of Helen, considered the most beautiful woman in the world by Prince Paris of Troy, is the starting point of this conflict. Helen was married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta, and her beauty was so remarkable that many Greek heroes and kings were attracted to her. What could be seen as an act of love or passion, in fact, became the trigger for a war that would last about 10 years. When Paris kidnaps Helen, he did not act merely on impulse. This act was preceded by a beauty contest among the goddesses, in which Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite competed for the title of the most beautiful. Paris, chosen as the judge, ended up choosing Aphrodite, who promised him Helen's love as a reward. Here we see the first layer of how ambition and vanity can lead to catastrophic consequences. By accepting this offer, Paris not only broke Menelaus's trust, but also challenged the social order of the time, where marital alliances were considered sacred. The repercussions of this kidnapping were immediate and devastating. Menelaus, in an act of honor, decided to seek Helen and, as a result, summoned all the kings and warriors of Greece who had promised to support him in case of need. This call turned into a powerful alliance, known as the Alliance of the Achaeans, which included iconic figures such as Agamemnon, Odysseus, and Achilles. What was once a personal conflict became a war between nations, reflecting how personal issues can quickly escalate into something much larger. 3. Main characters. The Trojan War would not be the same without the characters that inhabit it. Each of them brings a unique depth to the narrative, reflecting the complexities of human nature that still resonate today. Let's explore some of these essential figures, starting with Achilles, the great Greek hero. He was known for his unparalleled bravery and strength, but also for his fiery temper. Achilles was a man of principle, and his anger, which became the central theme of the Iliad, shows us how our emotions can influence not only our lives, but also the fate of entire nations. It's interesting to think about how, often, the decisions we make in moments of anger can have lasting consequences. Another central character is Hector, the Prince of Troy. He represents valor and loyalty to his city and his family. Unlike Achilles, who has a more individualistic nature, Hector is the epitome of the protective warrior. His fight is for the well-being of Troy and his family, and it makes us reflect on what we are willing to sacrifice for those we love. He is a symbol of duty, and his heroism is a symbol of the story reminds us of the importance of honoring our responsibilities, even in the face of adversity. Agamemnon, the leader of the Greeks, brings another dimension to the narrative. He is an ambitious leader, often motivated by power and status, which leads to conflicts with his own allies. The rivalry between him and Achilles is emblematic of the power struggles that can arise in any group, showing that even the most powerful leaders can be vulnerable to internal conflict. As I reflect on Agamemnon, I wonder, how many times in our lives do we allow pride or ambition to affect our personal relationships? 4. Duration. The Trojan War lasted approximately 10 years, a period that, at first glance, may seem like a considerable amount of time for a conflict. However, as we delve into this epic narrative, we realize that this duration was marked by a series of dramatic events, intense battles, and unexpected twists and turns. To better understand this time frame, it is important to consider the circumstances surrounding the conflict. The war began as a love affair, but quickly turned into a struggle for power and honor. The Greek armies, led by Agamemnon, were united by their desire to rescue Helen, but they were also motivated by prestige and political alliances. With each new battle, the number of warriors and the involvement of several city-states increased, intensifying the complexity of the war. During these 10 years, there were a series of battles that were not just battles, but events that shaped the identities of the characters. A notable example is the duel between Achilles and Hector, which became one of the most memorable moments in history. Achilles, the greatest Greek warrior, sought to avenge the death of his friend Patroclus. This type of situation not only added an emotional layer to the war, but also highlighted the importance of personal relationships and honor among warriors. Now, I would like to share a reflection on how, in our own lives, we often encounter conflicts that last a long time. The Trojan War teaches us that time can be both an ally and an enemy. On our journey, we sometimes face situations that seem endless, and it is essential to find a purpose and a reason to persevere. Just like warriors in battle, we must remember the importance of our goals and the people we love along the way. 5. Divine intervention. The intervention of the gods in the Trojan War is a fascinating and crucial aspect of the narrative. Throughout the fighting, the Greek deities not only observe but actively get involved, taking sides and influencing the fate of mortals. For anyone who has had a spiritual experience, it makes sense to think that forces beyond ourselves can dictate unexpected directions in our lives. In Greek mythology, this is a very evident reality. The gods were not just distant figures. They behaved in very human ways, with passions, jealousies, and rivalries. For example, the goddess Aphrodite, who sided with Paris, did so not only out of love for him, but also because she wanted revenge on Hera and Athena, who felt disrespected. This shows that even in grandiose matters such as war, human emotions were present. It is almost like reflecting on how our own emotions can impact decisions and the paths we choose to follow. Athena, on the other hand, was a defender of the Greeks and used her wisdom and strategy to help them in various situations. The gods felt an almost compulsive need to intervene, as if their reputations and prestige were at stake. When we observe real life, how many times do we not find ourselves thinking that certain situations could be different if there was a higher power to guide us? In the Trojan War, this force was personified in gods who were both amused and enraged by the actions of humans. One of the most notable events of divine intervention was the duel between Achilles and Hector. As the two warriors fought, the gods watched and even placed bets on who would emerge victorious. It is a reminder that in decisive moments, there is always a force beyond our own that can either spur us on or derail us. The very idea that the gods could change the course of a battle suggests that in our lives, external circumstances are often beyond our control, but it is how we respond to them that truly defines our path. 6. Battle strategies. The Trojan War was not just a clash of strength. It was a true game of wits and strategy. From the very beginning of the conflict, the Greeks showed that they were willing to use cunning to outwit the Trojans. One of the most famous episodes that illustrates this is that of the Trojan horse. This ingenious tactic was not just a military maneuver, but also a symbol of creativity and the ingenuity of the human mind. The concept of the Trojan horse is quite simple, but extremely effective. The Greeks, after years of besieging the city, realized that brute force was getting them nowhere. So they decided to build a huge wooden horse, hollow inside, where a group of warriors hid. By leaving the horse at the gates of Troy as a supposed surrender gift, the Greeks retreated, making it seem like they had given up the war. Upon seeing this, the Trojans believed that victory was theirs. The horse was taken inside the city walls as a trophy. This strategy teaches us a lot about the importance of planning and patience. Many times in life, we face challenges that seem insurmountable. As a spiritual leader, I see that, like the Greeks, we need to be cunning and find creative solutions to obstacles. Sometimes, force is not the most effective way. It is essential to assess the situation, understand the enemy, and then act in a way that surprises. In addition to the Trojan horse, other tactics were employed. The Greeks used numerical superiority in several battles, but they also relied on division and conquest. They often tried to destabilize the Trojans' alliances, sowing distrust among them. In addition, ambushes were a common strategy, allowing Greek warriors to attack with precision and efficiency, taking advantage of surprise. 7. Fall of Troy. The fall of Troy is one of the most emblematic events in Greek mythology, a milestone that symbolizes not only the destruction of a city, but also the result of human conflicts and the consequences of choices made throughout life. When we talk about the fall of this iconic city, we are referring to a tragic outcome that resonates to this day. History shows us that behind the walls of Troy were hidden not only warriors, but also dreams, loves, and betrayals. After almost 10 years of siege, the Greek warriors were exhausted and, at the same time, determined to find a way to overcome the Trojans' resistance. The strategy that became famous was that of the Trojan horse, an ingenious device that, at first glance, seemed to be a gift for the city. When I analyze this strategy, I realize how it represents a powerful metaphor for deception and cunning. The horse, built by Ulysses and his men, carried warriors hidden inside it. The Trojans, deceived by the appearance of the gift, brought it inside their walls, without suspecting that there lay their own downfall. The Trojan horse's entry into the city symbolizes the fragility of human certainties. Many times in our lives, we come across situations that seem harmless, but that can have profound consequences. This lesson is valuable, especially for those of us who, like us, have lived a little longer and know that appearances can be treacherous. The fall of Troy teaches us to look beyond what is in front of us and to ponder the choices we make. 8. Cultural legacy. The legacy of the Trojan War is immense and spans millennia, influencing not only literature, but also art, philosophy, and even contemporary psychology. When we think of this conflict, it is impossible not to remember the stories that shaped Western culture. The epic narrative of the Trojan War is not just a story of heroes and gods, but a profound reflection on the human condition, its virtues and weaknesses. On my spiritual journey, I realize how much timeless stories teach us about ourselves. The Trojan War, with its complexities and dilemmas, reflects the internal struggles we all face. Paris' love for Helen, which generated so much desire and destruction, is a clear example of how intense passions can lead to dramatic consequences. How many times have we let ourselves be carried away by emotions that, seemingly, elevate us, but which, at the same time, can drag us into complicated situations? This duality is at the heart of the human experience. Western literature, from Shakespeare's tragedies to modern novels, owes much to the narrative structure of the Iliad and the Odyssey. Homer not only introduces us to memorable characters, but also explores themes of honor, revenge, and the search for identity. The way Achilles deals with his anger, for example, is a reflection on the importance of recognizing and managing our emotions. For those seeking understanding and connection, these lessons can be valuable. Finally, the legacy of the Trojan War is a rich tapestry that still influences contemporary society. The lessons of love, betrayal, and heroism continue to resonate, inviting us to reflect on our own stories. By considering these themes, we can find deeper meaning in our lives, recognizing that even in the midst of conflict, there is room for learning and spiritual evolution. Thus, the Trojan War is not just an ancient story, but a guide to navigating the complexities of modern life.